you need to be able to understand the idea of the hilulah of the yard site, the day of celebration of Reb Shimon ben Yochai, which is marked by his yard site. So he says, first of all, Hein Klolos in Hilullah. First, to understand the general idea of this hilullah, of this yard site, it's not just an idea of celebration, of joy that we're taking a yard site and we're marking it as a joyous occasion, but it's even more so. It's a great joy. It's similar to the joy of a wedding. Like the expression the pasuk in the day of his wedding, because the word hilullah in Aramaic means a chasna celebration. So we are calling the fasting of Reb Shimon ben Yochai, we're referring to it as Yom Hilullah. Hilullah, in other words, we're likening the day of a passing to a wedding. And wedding is a very great simcha. Also, the unique thing of Reb Shimon ben Yochai specific Yom Hilullah, neshama beguf shel tzaddik. We're talking here about a neshama that is residing in the body of a tzaddik. And amongst tzaddikim himself, the tzaddik level of Shimon ben Yochai is very unique. It is to be Risham, like it's brought down in Rabbi Shalmi, Rabbi Kiva, Amar Allah, that Rabbi Kiva said about Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. That Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai was one of the students of Rabbi Kiva. So Rabbi Kiva said, Dayecha, it's sufficient for you, Shani ubaracha makirim keichachim, that I and your Creator know your might, your power. In other words, he was so great, it was beyond the comprehension of anybody else. Only his own Rebbe, obviously Hashem, could appreciate who he was. And also, not only did his Rebbe testify about his greatness, but also the Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai also spoke about his greatness. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Atmi Amar, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai himself said, I saw people of an elevated stature, and they're few. And if they are two, so it's me and my son. And then he concluded, then he concluded, if it's only one, I know that I am the B'nai Aliyah, I am the one of the elevated status. And like Alter Rebbe Tanya explains the deeper meanings of the B'nai Aliyah. The Gam Omar, and also Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said another thing, Yochani lifters kala olam kulim min adin, miyom shenivresi ad atachulu. I'm able to release the entire world from any type of judgment from when I was created until now. That's the power. That's how, I guess, great the power of his Torah mitzvahs and his chus and his energy is, that he can like erase any type of thing negative from his whole entire lifetime, anything that took place in the world in general. Kain Amar, and so too he said concerning releasing anything negative of different generations. So he says, if Avram wishes, he could go from his generation until my generation, and he could take upon himself all the generations to make sure to carry all the negative things of all those generations and remove them. And I have the capability to take on all the negative and all the shoyim from my generation till the time of Mashiach. So between the both of us, we can cleanse the entire humanity from Avram Avinu's times till Mashiach's times. In Loibai, and if Avram Avinu does not want to participate in this, so I have another person that can help me out. Start if Achi Hashiloini Imi, so Achi Hashiloini will join me. V'anan mekarvin min Avram Malchus Mashiach, and we will bring close, we will eradicate everything negative from the time of Avraham Avinu until Mashiach's times. All of these expressions lead us to see how great all these things we find that nothing like it in other Tanoim, only Reb Shimon bar Yochai. So therefore, we need to understand what is so unique and special about Reb Shimon bar Yochai that therefore we have this type of celebration, marking his Yom Elul, marking his Yartzeit. So he says, Nois Bey is inspired by Maimer, the Maimer of, it's a Maimer that's some tzedek, I think he's referring back to. It's explained, before we could explain what is the significance of the Yartzeit of the Rashbi, we need to preface what it says, I will make you a goers amongst the standers. That he says to the Navi that you will be a traveling amongst those that are standing still. So he explains in general that this is like we have in many Mamorichs. This refers to Neshamis versus Malach. Inyan ha'hilullah kosher and inyan ha'hilullah. The idea of traveling is connected with the idea of a Yartzeit. In Maimon Azal, the Chazal state, Hai Alma does lina menei kibei hilullah dami. That this world, that one departs from it, that leaves it, is like a chasana hole. So we say that this concept is derived from the fact this world that we are going from it. As linon is Aramaic for halicha, for traveling. In other words, that the neshamas and the being here in this world have this capability of being travelers. Because the true idea of traveling is going up in an incomparable way to no end. The revelation of the infinite power of Hashem down here below is the idea of a Yartzeit, which is Hilullah as well. That is also the novelty of Lag BaOmer, that it has this power of the power of the Ein Sof is in a chasana. The simple meaning of Hilullah. The power of the Ein Sof is also the novelty of Lag BaOmer, which is Bar Lakam Siv, like we'll explain later on in Oy Zayin. In other words, you have a combination of different things. This world, the neshamas, have the level of hiluk, have the level of traveling. Why? Because hiluk has to do with the infinite. The infinite has to do with this world because it is the power of the Ein Sof, just like by a wedding is the power of the Ein Sof. Therefore, this is connected also, this is the novelty, uniqueness of why Lag BaOmer is called a Yom Hilullah. It's associated with this concept of the ascent that's in the way of Ein Sof. So to be able to go there, first he's going to introduce this idea about the different types of ascents, the ascent of a Malach, which is a limited ascent, and therefore it's called standing, versus the ascent of Neshamas. Line 7, second page in the Bible. The idea behind this is what it says, I will make you and I place you travelers amongst these standards. It's referring to Neshamas and Malachim. In the Malachim, the Malachim are called the ones that are standing. Why are they called standing? The reason for this is a Malach has both a body and a soul. Since his body is in a measured way and a way of boundary, one place it says that the body of certain malachim would take to travel 500 years of walking, like Shlisha Shaloilam, or different Maimon Chazal says the third of the world, Shanamar, like it says, V'yosik is Sarshish, it says about the malach, that his body is like Sarshish. What's it mean, Sarshish? So the Chazal divide the word Sarshish into two, and they say it's as if Terei Shish, 2/6. 2/6 is 1/3. That means that the Malach is 1/3 of the size of the world. Be that as it may, as gigantic as the Malach is, it's still something that's measured. Since the body of a Malach is something that's measured and limited, moving it's understood Shagam Nefesh finished some Malach that also the soul and the neshama of a Malach is in the way of being measured in a boundary. Because the formation of Malachim, the way Malachim were created and formed, is not the way a human being was formed. Concerning a human being, concerning cultivation, it says, "Vayitza Hashem Elokim b'Adam Afar min Adam," that Hashem Elokim formed man, earth, dust from the earth, and only v'acharkach, only afterwards, vayipach ba'apav nishmas chaim, he blew into his nostrils a soul of life. What's this show? In the creation of man, we had the joining of two extremes. The lowest part of creation, the level of daimim, the inanimate, the offer, the earth, and you had joined with a neshama, which is the level of medaber. That is unique in the entire creation, as opposed to animals and wild beasts. In a similar vein, also malachim that are called Lashon Kodesh. They're also called animals and wild beasts, like we know in the Merkav El Yoina. There's the lion's face, the oxen face, the eagle's face, or Bachlal, there's the malachim that are called Chayis HaKodesh, the holy beasts. So but they were also created like the beasts and the animals down here, meaning the nefesh and the guf of the animal created simultaneously, and the nefesh and the guf of the malach were created with each other. Why is that so? Why was the nefesh and the guf of animals created together? Why was the nefesh and the guf of the malach created together? Because by all these beings, that the nefesh and the body were created together, it's because their nefesh and their body are comparable one to each other, are on a similar level. Let's explain the Torah and Ramar following that addresses this very question: why was Adam Arishan's body created different than all other living creatures, where all of the living creatures, the soul and the body were created together, but Adam was not that way, that were created separate? What does this have a bearing on our point? We're trying to explain that if the guf of the malach is limited in some way, it might be gigantic, but it's in some way limited, so therefore that must reflect on its neshama as well, because since they were created together, that's an indication that they are associated with each other. Zem, move on, last line on the page. This is understood. Shagam nefesh v'nishmas hamalachim, also the soul and the neshama of malachim, is in a way that's measured and has a boundary. Because the nefesh of the malach has a limitation and a boundary, because it was created in a way that conforms to the body. Therefore, for the entire continuation of their avodah, it's called in a way of standing. Though they have a sense, they gay and ungay, and in Yiddish that I was saying, they are going and going. Malachim are constantly going. Even more so, that the entire idea of avodah, it's a concept. They are doing avodah in their own way, and avodah by its very nature means traveling and going and increasing. But yet we are calling them oimdim. We call it's only an ascent that's comparable to the level that preceded. All the ascents are comparably in one level. That even the old srafim, Srafim means al shem shenisrafim b'avodosam. It means that their avodah is like so powerful, so out of the box, that they become consumed, they become burnt up through their avodah. But in Asreif, for the Bitlam is the idea of burning is seemingly nullifying their entire existence. If so, one would think that they have become elevated to a level totally beyond the limitations. This is in Yelachni calls after all of this, even the Malach that's called Serafim is still on the same level. It's still not an ascent. That's incomparable. That can be called traveling. So the Malachim are always called Oimdim, even when they are doing their avodah, etc. As opposed to neshamas that are called travelers. Concerning this, Zechariah was told, I will make you a traveler amongst these that are standing, that the neshamas are in a way of traveling between the standards. But still we need to understand the neshama is also a created being. And therefore, if it's created, true, the nefesh and the guf, they don't have to be on the same level. So therefore, even if the body is limited, but the nefesh was created totally separately and inserted into the guf, but it's still a created being. Even the neshama is a created being. Even though this is the way godliness became a created being. Mikol Mokim, still in all, after the fact, we are nivraim. Harei a nivra. Even the neshama is created. To such a degree that even the higher level of neshamas of the world of Atzilus, we still say in Chassidus and Kabbalah that they are not like the Kelim of Atzilus. We know that in Atzilus we say that Hashem is one with the Oiros of Atzilus, the Chayohi. Hashem is one with the Kelim of Atzilus, called the Garmohi, which means that both the Oiros and the Kelim of Atzilus are godliness. They are not Nivroim. Neshamas of Atzilus, on the other hand, do not have that union and do not have that joining. That's what he's saying right now. In the Kelim of Atzilus, he says in line 19, that the Oir is enclosed in the vessel and becomes one with the vessel. And therefore the vessel, the Kelim of Atzilus, are still godliness. Enkin ben neshama is opposed to neshama shem ba'ofen shahav dalim ma'or shemachayim mahava oisam k'mevur begeres hakodesh. The neshama is that they are in a way that is separated and removed from the light that gives life to them and brings them into existence, like it's explained in Tanya Geres HaKodesh. Not like the Oiris and Kelim Vatzilus that are completely joined as one. Therefore, v'im came. The question is, how can we say the neshama is at the level of a traveler? That shows an idea of a lack of boundary or limitation. Even the vessels of Atzilus have a boundary, have a limitation. Like Sefer Yetzirah says, as a relatation. 10 spheres are specifically 10 and not 9. And the other way as well, they're 10 and not 11. So that itself shows that there's a limitation. So if even the Kelim of Atzilus are limited, how much more so Neshama is that they are not even in the level of the Kelim of Atzilus, like it's explained in the above mentioned Geras HaKodesh. So since even the Kelim of Atzilus are limited, so the Neshamas for sure are limited. So if so, how can we say that Neshamas are Mahalchim, that Neshamas travel in a way totally beyond any type of limitation if they are limited? So first of all, the Rebbe is going to explain the difference of what we mean when we talk about the limitation by a malach, we're talking about the limitation by neshama. Line 7. The idea behind this is First and foremost, the measure and the boundary of a neshama is not similar to the measure and the boundary of a malch. How is that so? The existence of malachim is not in the world of Atzilus. That's not their natural habitat. Maimon Pardes, like the Pardes says, Mi nosan malach noitzer ba'atzilus. Who placed a malach formed in Atzilus? They don't belong there. It's not their place. Rather, Elo lamatam is it. The place of a malach is lower than Atzilus. Oilm is Bri Yitzirasiya and the worlds of Bri Yitzirasiya. Different malachim in different worlds. Rafim is in Bria, Chayis is in Yitzira, Efanim is in Asiya. Hachel Ma'al Bria Shesham Hem Asrafim. Beginning from the world of Bria, that's the first location of the highest malach. That over there, they're the level of Srafim. That's the most highest level of malach. Ain't in neshamas as opposed to neshamas hariyesh neshamas d'atzilus. That already gives us an advantage over the malachim. That the malachim have no connection with the world of Atzilus, but neshamas, they are neshamas of the world of Atzilus. Dugmas nishmas Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, similar to the neshama of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai and Nishmas Rosh Rabbeinu, and that's not just limited to those two. Moshe's bar become sichos kedoshos, gamen agel Nishmas Rabbeinu Azaken, like explained also in many holy sichos of the Frierdiker Rebbe, that the Alter Rebbe's neshama was also neshama d'atzilus. And then the Rebbe goes on to say, if that was that way by the Alter Rebbe, so it must be by his successors. Them moving from this understood. If it was so by the Alter Rebbe, it must also be by those that succeeded him. Every single leader in his generation, which is especially so the Moshe, because they are an extension of Moshe Rabbeinu in their generation. How much more so, not just Nisim Stam in generations, but how much more so Nisim that were devoted. Those Nisim, like Nisi Chabad, that their purpose was, their goal was to spread the wellsprings outward. That the idea they were spreading the wellsprings outward means that they were going on and doing the work of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. They were not just on the Spashtus of the Moshe, they were like an extension of the Rashbi. By Yonash Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, they were spreading the wellsprings of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. So for sure, those Nasiim, and in addition to the fact that they are a Nasi, they are a continuation of the Alter Rebbe, and they are a continuation of Moshe Rabbeinu. By spreading the wellsprings, they are connected with Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. So there for sure, they are for sure higher than the Malachim of Bria. Therefore, on those neshamas, it's self-understood that how they can be mahalchim, even though the Malachim are called oimdim. But then the Rebbe extends it and says, even those neshamas that are not neshamas d'atzilus, ordinary neshamas of the worlds of Bri Yitzirasiya, even the neshamas of our generation of the heels of Mashiach, which is definitely from the lowest of the lowest levels, like it says in Perik Beis and Tanya, from Nefesh to Malchus to Asiya, from the most lowest levels. Still in all, the root of every single neshama is in the world of Atzilus. How do we know this? Because Krishanik by the Anshik Nesagdoila, like was established through the men of the Great Assembly, that they established the Nusach HaTfilah, and they established that we say, every single Yid says this daily, Shebachol Yom V'Yom, every single day. Koydem Ascholas Avoida, before he begins his avoida of the day, Omer Kolechad Misrael Ba'ascholas Birchas HaShachar, every single Yid says at the beginning of the morning brachas. He says, Neshama Shenasata B'Tahiri, that the Neshama that you placed in me is pure. What is that purity referring to? It's higher than the Neshamas the way they are just in Bri Yitzirasiya. Shezoi Madregas HaNeshama Kvichi Ba'Atzilus, that's the level of neshama, the way it's not Atzilus. L'mayla gamata barosa, it's even higher than when it says you created her, because only first it says tahirihi, and then it says ata barosa, ata yitzarta, ata nefaktabi. So we see that tahira precedes even the level of ata barosa. And every Yid says this. The neshama shenasata bi, I'm saying personally, not the neshama shenasata b'klal Yisrael, but my personal neshama comes from Atzilus Tahiri. Then the Rebbe adds an interesting point. When do we say Elokai neshama? So we mentioned before in passing, before even beginning the avodah. So the Rebbe is going to drill down even deeper. What type of avodah do we say this to about? Yesh lahois, if we could add, Inyan and Shamish Nasat Bitoiri Yesh Gama Filukoidim avodah da miras moidani. This Inyan that the neshama you placed in me is pure is found even before the avodah of saying moidani. How so? We first say moidani, and then we start saying the brachas, al tis yudoyim, asher yotz, and then we say al kain neshama. After beseder hamir kedemus amiris moidani lefnech lefnein tils yudayim, ve'ilu amiris al kain neshama yedrak lacher is though in the order, you open up the siddur, the order is first moidani precedes the washing of the hands in the morning, and al saying al kain neshama is only after washing the hands. So the Rebbe says, like it's explained in the codifiers of Jewish law, the reason why Elokai Neshama is only recited later. I'm sorry, like explained in the poskim, a different thing. Why don't we begin Elokai Neshama with Baruch? Usually, if something is beginning, like the beginning of benching, you start with the word Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. Certain other brachas in benching do not begin with a Baruch Atah Hashem because smucha lechaverta, because it's close to the conclusion that's said already with the end Baruch Atah Hashem. But seemingly, when we're first starting to daven in the morning, that's the beginning of everything. Elokai Neshama Shenasata Bi. Why don't we begin with the word Baruch? So he says, Mishum she's smucha lebracha shalafana, she birchas amapel, because it's close to the bracha preceding it, that's the bracha of hamapel. Because in the times of Chazal, Elokai Neshama was said before Asher Yotzar, before Al Tils Yadayim. Because or else, Elokai Neshama has the close bracha of but in the times when the bracha of Elokai Neshama was initially established, that was the first thing we said when we got up. And then, like he says in the note on the bottom, then afterwards the Gaonim said because the person's not as careful these days with their hands and so on, so they first have to wash their hands and use the restroom, etc., etc. But the point is, we see that Elokai Neshama is essentially, and should have been, if not for the times of Gaonim, it would have been the first thing in the day before anything else. What does this tell us? Line 12, is that moving to this understood? The measure and the boundary of a neshama is not similar to the measure and boundary of a malach. Just like the measure and boundary of the world of Atzilus is not similar to and incomparable to the measure and boundary of the worlds of Bri Yitzir Asiyah. Like it's explained at length in the Mamar of the Pasuk, how beautiful are your steps in shoes. In other words, the idea of steps, meaning the concept of traveling, the boundary of the world of Atzilus is not a true boundary. After establishing that we have the boundaries in the world of Atzilus, but it's not true boundaries. In what way is the world of Atzilus considered bounded and limited? The idea of the boundary of Atzilus is that from it comes down via chain descent the boundaries in the worlds that's below Atzilus. But in truth, in Atzilus itself, there are no boundaries. And because in Atzilus itself, there are no boundaries, so it's understood that the malachim that come from Biyah, their limitation is a true limitation, that because of that, they're called oimdim. And the neshamas, the way they are in Atzilus, are called Mahalchim because even though they're not like Kalim of Atzilus, they're separate from Kalim of Atzilus, but still in all, it doesn't have that limitation. It's only the source of limitation for the next worlds. Any questions?